So today we're going to be going over the answers to the comparing and ordering fractions questions that we had from earlier. So the first question was to put these three fractions in order: 7/10, 1/2, and 4/5 from least to greatest using the fraction strips, these 10 centimeter strips. So you could either draw them and cut them out, or you could just draw a rectangle and color in the shapes right onto your paper. So the first fraction is 7/10, and what we want to do with this is take our 10 centimeter long rectangle or strip of paper, and we take the 10 centimeters and we divide it into 10 equal sections. So if we go 10 divided by 10, we get 1. So that tells us that each section here will be 1 centimeter long. So what you want to do is on your rectangle, measure 1 centimeter, draw a line, and just keep on going until you get to the end. And then if you, once you get to the end, if you count them, you should have 10 equal sections. And then just do the same thing for the other two rectangles. The second one is 1/2, so that tells us we need 2 equal sections, and we're going to count one of them. So if it's 10 centimeters long, we need to go 10 divided by 2, 10 centimeters divided up into 2 sections, and that will equal 5. So there's 5 centimeter long sections. So measure 5 centimeters, draw a line, then 5 more centimeters, and that will take us to the end of the rectangle. And the third strip should represent 4/5, so I need 5 equal sections. So I take 10 centimeters, divide it into 5 equal sections. That tells us each section will be 2 centimeters long. So measure 2 centimeters, draw a line, 2, and so on. Now that we have our rectangles split up into the proper number of sections, we just need to shade them in. So this first one is split up into tenths, and we want it to show 7/10, so I'm going to shade in 7 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The second one was split up in halves, and we only wanted to shade in 1/2, so shade in 1/2. And the third one split up into fifths, and we shaded in 4/5, so 4 out of 5 sections. Now when they're lined up like this, we can see which one is the smallest or the least, and that will be this one, 1/2. The middle one will be 7/10, and then the largest fraction is 4/5. So in order from least to greatest: 1/2, 7/10, 4/5. Okay, for this next question, we had 3 different fractions: 5/6, 2/3, and 7/12, and we had to do the same thing. We had to put them in order from least to greatest, only this time we had to do it by finding a common denominator rather than using 10 centimeter long strips. So I look at my denominators. I have 6, 3, and 12, and I want to find a common denominator that these can all equal. So I find the multiples. We're going to look at the first 10 multiples of each number. So here the first 10 multiples of 6, first 10 multiples of 3, and the first 10 multiples of 12. And we find that 12 is in all of them, so that is our common denominator. Now you'll see that 12 is early on in all of these multiples. We didn't really need to go this far, but I like to choose 10 just because more often than not, you'll be able to find the common denominator in those first 10. Sometimes it's early on, other times you need more numbers, so I usually just try and do 10 each time. So the second step here is to find the equivalent fractions using the common denominator of 12 that we found. So our fractions again are 5/6, 2/3, and 7/12. So I want to convert the denominators from what they are, from 6 or 3 or 12, and convert them into a common denominator, in this case 12. So for the first fraction, it's 6. Well, 6 times what is 12? 6 times 2 is 12. Okay, and then the second one, we're going from 2/3 into something over 12. So 3 times what is 12? 3 times 4 is 12. And the last one we don't really need to convert because the denominator is already 12. But if you really want to, 12 times what is 12? Well, 12 times 1 is 12. So now that we know what we're multiplying the denominators by to get the 12, we have to do the same thing to the numerators to create our equivalent fractions.
So we know to get from 6 to 12, we have to times it by 2. So if we times the bottom by 2, we times the top by 2, the numerator. So 5 times 2 is 10. For the second fraction here, to get from 3 to 12, we times it by 4. So times the top by 4, 2 times 4 is 8. And the last one, like I said before, well, nothing's happening here, so it just stays the same. 7/12 is equal to 7/12. Now that they all have a common denominator of 12, it's much easier to compare them. So the smallest fraction, because we're going from least to greatest, the smallest fraction is 7/12. And then the next one is 8/12, and then the largest is 10/12. But we want to put it in order, use the fractions that we were originally given. So 7/12, yep, that was the fraction we started off with, so we'll just keep that as 7/12. But our second fraction, 8/12, was actually initially 2/3, so we write 2/3. And the largest fraction wasn't 10/12, it was originally 5/6. So 5/6 at the end. So it goes from, in order from least to greatest, 7/12, 2/3, 5/6.